All right. Good afternoon. This is Penelope Flynn, moderator of the Discussions with the Otherhood podcast. I'm here with co-hosts James and Otto, and today we're going to be talking about louder than words. And the topic is basically about how it is when we watch certain films, and there's a scene or basically a scene, within that film that may not be, the major scene that everybody points to when they recall that film, but it's a scene that when we're watching it, we realize it to be important in the development of a character or in the development of the plot. So we're going to discuss each of us, some of our favorites or the most impactful, as people like to say, scenes that we have seen in certain films that, that are, I guess, they are the linchpin sometimes, or just something that really tells us a lot about the character, even if it's something that they deny, but we see it in their actions being that, louder than words. So before we get started, as usual, we are going to talk a little about the weather. And James, since you're up top, how's the weather in the city?
Okay, right now it's 87 degrees. The air quality is bad, and the humidity is on its way up.
Yeesh. Has it been that way all week?
No,
Has it been cool this week, or is it?
yeah, it was very cool this week, but now that we going into a new week, it's the heat is starting to come back.
And so yeah, you're getting this summer now, so you're getting your true summer. But and how about you, Nikki? How's the weather?
Well, the weather here in Dallas is hot.
Yeah,
That's it.
indeed.
It's just hot.
All right, indeed, it is hot. Okay.
That's right.
And how about you, Otto? Any more to add to the hot?
Yeah, I echo that, but I think you know what? I feel like this weather is so bad. Somebody should be arrested for this. So this is not. Somebody got to be responsible. This doesn't happen normally. So if
Yeah.
things don't happen that are abnormal, there's somebody responsible. I don't know who it is.
All right, whoever it is, they need to be arrested. All right, well, let's just get started with the topic. And some of it came about as a result. I can't remember what film we were watching, but it may have been Trading Places. We were discussing Trading Places, and certain, not Trading Places. Sorry, what's the other one? Yeah, it is Trading Places. Sorry, it's a Philadelphia film, and the main character is Billy Ray Valentine. And if you have not seen the film, you probably should, because I'm not going to be skimping on the spoilers. If you haven't seen it, then close your ears. But la 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 la. But in this film, Billy Ray Valentine, who is kind of down
It's
on
like
his luck, a little bit of
isn't
a
it
con man.
a takeoff for the Prince and the Pauper?
Not really, because the Prince of the Pauper, they look exactly alike, and no one knows them apart. They look exactly alike.
Well, that's why I say takeoff.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something that's closer where someone takes somebody else's spot. And this, of course, you have one person who is, working at a company, doing very well. He's going to marry the niece of the named partners. And these named partners are so unscrupulous that they decide they're going to have a scientific experiment where they take someone who is down on their luck, not just down on their luck, but down and out, and say if I put him in the same position financially with a place to live, good job, that they would be exactly the same as the person who was to the manner born. This is this scientific quote unquote experiment that they are going to do. And Billy Ray Valentine, played by Eddie Murphy, is the downtrodden individual who's kind of like a little bit of a con man. And they want to say that he put in the same position as Winthorpe, who is the character played by, what is his name?
Dan Aykroyd.
Dan Aykroyd. It plays the, man to the manor born, that they would see where their background and breeding, quote unquote, are superior to nurture. So it's nature versus nurture argument. And in this one scene, the main character, Billy Ray Valentine, has gone to jail. And when he walks out of the jail, he's been bailed out. He walks outside. He's standing in front of the jail. And he steps to the right, looks to the right. He turns and steps to the left. And then, but he's still just standing there on the steps. Now, I don't know if everybody saw the same thing in that very simple movement that he did at that point in the film. And of course, many of us saw it. I mean, it was, of course, Otto and I saw it. We thought exactly the same thing. Great. He's out of jail. He's been bailed out. But as he walks out into the world, he really has nowhere to go. I mean, he walks to the right, and then, okay, where am I going? Over there? Nowhere. Walks to the left. Where am I going? Over there? Nowhere. So at that moment, we see that this character, Billy Ray Valentine, really has no options. Great, he's out of jail. But it's not like I'm going to go over here to the right and I'm going to go walk over to my house, go back home to my mom or something. From that point in his life, even having gotten out of jail, he had nowhere to go. So I thought, and Otto and I would talk about this, how there are scenes like that are definitive in films that tell you so much about the character and where it is that they're going in the plot, that if you had removed it, maybe nobody would have noticed, but its inclusion tells you so much about this character and why they make the decisions that they do. In fact, when the two old men who are part of this, guess what? Do you have something to say, Otto?
It lines up the next scene, like you can say.
Yeah, when they come in and they offer him this opportunity, quote unquote, that how is he going to say no? He has no other options. But in that one moment, standing at the top of the stairs, where he's looking to the right and steps to the right, and then looks to the left, steps to the left, realizing that either way is just as bleak as the other because he has no real options. And of course, when these people make this ridiculous offer to him, of course he's going to take it. So I think that things like that, that there are films that have these scenes that are just so important to this script, but they may be just throwaways that other people don't notice. So that was one that we thought about. And so we're saying that we can get together and talk about these things. Are there other screenplays, other script films where you find those type of scenes that tell you so much about the character without, them having basically to say a word,
Yeah, because it's not like Citizen Kane and Rosebud. People, it's not an iconic scene, but it's a really to me it's a really integral part of the movie, because he gets in the car, he ain't got no place to go, so he might as well. And then he starts saying Eddie Murphy. I don't know whether he ad-libbing or this was written to the script, but he's talking to the guy named Randolph. He's like, "Oh, Randolph, like Randy Jackson, right?" And I wonder if white people know. I mean, this is before white people really caught on to the Michael Jackson thing and they didn't know the Jackson 5 or anything. Do you think they knew? You think that they knew what he was talking about?
Probably not.
It depends, It depends. It depends on. It's probably a small percentage of people, white people, that caught on about the joke with Randy Jackson. But getting back to him coming out of the police precinct and looking to the left and looking to the right, it's possible that the story that it's based on, okay, in the story, if it's a short story or I don't know, the writer might have had it written into the story that he basically had nowhere to go. But then when it gets to the screenplay, they flipped it to that movement to look to the left and look to the right, and that signifies that he doesn't have any place to go. So that's possibly where it came from, and that's where the directors come in and
Yeah.
sort of like set up that visual, because they don't want to go through the whole thing that was in the story. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
I mean, and again, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
That you are telling this tale with the visual.
Yeah.
That it's not an issue of indecision. It's an
Yeah.
issue that he really has nowhere to go.
In the movie, don't they say show it, don't say it, or
That's
something?
right. Show, don't tell.
Yeah,
So,
that's
mhm,
that's the thing with when it comes to writing. Show, don't tell.
mhm,
Show, don't tell.
yeah.
And
Well,
And
because
and
and especially when it comes to film, you have to.
it's a visual medium.
Yeah,
and he does more than just look. He looks and he steps to the left.
Hmm.
He looks and he steps to the right. So it's not. It's more than that. It's like this man has nowhere to go. He has no idea what his next move is.
Hmm. Yeah. So I again thought that is really one of the scenes that we think is right there for us. That tells you where this person's head really is and what they can really do. And I
I
don't know.
mean,
Do
I mean
you
with
have? Yeah. I was
with
going to ask then. Is there anything like that strikes you kind of the same way, Jane?
I mean, if you look at we're gonna need a bigger boat scene in Jaws. Okay, the visual is the look on Roy Scheider's face is like the look he has. Like, this is a lot of bullshit. You know, I really think that this is just a halfway waste of time. And if we do catch a shark, fine, it's gonna be probably a regular shark. But then when he turns and sees Jaws, that's when he realizes that, like, oh, this this is a whole new level, and we're we're gonna. It also is terror in his look. So he's like, yeah, we're gonna need a bigger boat.
So from
Okay,
skeptic, that moment from skeptic to true believer.
right,
We're gonna need something bigger than what I thought. I thought we were doing normal fishing. Like, no, this is different.
right, and he probably the character is probably thinking that this is halfway what you call a snipe hunt,
Hmm.
or if we do catch a shark, it's gonna be just a regular size
Exactly.
shark. But
Exactly.
he goes from skeptic to believer.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's a moment I think the audience can recognize, because how many times in real life have we been in that situation where we thought a thing was a thing, and then it wasn't a thing. It was a thing. It was a plus size thing. You
Yeah, it
know?
was something entirely different than
Yeah.
what we told ourselves that we were prepared for. To
And
say,
somebody
I'm
said,
prepared for a giant shark.
"Hey,"
Okay,
yes,
here we go.
somebody
I
said,
was not prepared for a monster.
right.
Not
Somebody said,
prepared.
"Hey, there's a rat and there's a mouse in the bathroom," and you
Hmm.
go in there, you look, there ain't no mouse.
Yeah, not prepared for that.
Ain't no mouse.
And then again, like you say, now the focus of the film has changed. We're not about if there is this shark, if there is this threat. Now it's like, okay, we understand, and now it's time to get real and get ready and deal with this. You know,
Yeah, and sometimes it's not just what they're trying to do convey with the film. It also brings the audience involved in it too. Like case in point, War of the Worlds, right? With the the original one,
mm-hmm.
not the abomination that's running around on Amazon Prime now. But
You're not talking about the Tom Cruise one,
oh no, I'm talking about the 1954 one.
Okay.
right? Okay.
Okay, I remember watching it for the first time, and the scene where the minister, the priest, goes out to confront the alien spaceships, and he gets zapped.
Mm-hmm.
Right there, I had a Roy Scheider moment because I was like, as a child, I was like, I hate, no pun intended, but I was like, wow, we haven't got a prayer.
I'm
Okay.
sure little James enjoyed that scene too. Like, I just
So
Yeah,
so what?
it was a formative moment for little James.
Small
Yeah.
James enjoyed that scene.
Yeah. I mean, my and again, no pun intended again, but my God, if
Yep.
if these aliens are zapping, men of God,
Yep.
we haven't got a chance. And that, I think that's what brought that scene there, is what brought me to the next level of terror. And I was so happy at the end, when the aliens died of bacteria. So it happens, I don't think that the director George Powell meant for that scene. Who knows? Maybe he did.
Yeah.
But I
don't
know
think
it was
so.
yeah. I mean, maybe he did. But it was a transforming moment to me. It just brought me to a higher level of terror and fright and all of that good stuff.
It sets the mood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say one of the films that has that kind of a feeling for me, everybody may not know, of course, is John Carpenter's The Thing. And for me, it is a moment in the film that we kind of miss until the end of the film. When we are close to the end, we kind of understand what's going on because Blair understands what's going on immediately. So when Blair is in the control room
Blair,
taking it, excuse me. Oh yeah, if you know, John Carpenter's The Thing. It is a horror movie. It is what is it? It's a reimagining of the thing that was Thing from Another World, I guess, which was done in the 50s, with James Arnaz was playing the monster. But in this version of the thing, John Carpenter's Thing, which is artwork, I mean, truly one of my favorite films, that this thing, this monster, is not just, the monster, I'm scary, like a giant Frankenstein or something. The monster is a shapeshifter and it can change into you. I mean, like a carbon copy. No one would know that it was not you until they figure out how to do that. But at the very beginning, we don't know this. And in fact, at the very beginning, most people are not aware of what is going on, except Blair gets it and gets it quick. So he's in the control room with an axe and he is chopping up anything that they can use in order to contact the outside world. And understand they are in the Arctic. They are nowhere near anything. And the only reason that this thing comes into play is that it has attacked, or not attacked, but we have a Norwegian contingent there of scientists that has dug up some alien spaceship, and they, I gather, become infected. This thing tries to get away in the shape of a dog. They chase it down, unfortunately, chase it all the way to the Americans, where they have their little outpost, and it all, of course, begins again. So here we are at this outpost in the middle of nowhere, and of course, Blair makes this determination, correct determination, that if these things are allowed to contact anyone, oh, something terrible's happened here, come pick us up, and any one of the things any one of the individuals that gets picked up is one of those things, the earth is over. And you see him running these profiles of how long it would take for this stuff to go on. We don't really understand what he's doing at the time, but he is chopping up this everything, all the controls, everything that they can get any help. And he's saying they don't want to be dogs, they want to be us. And we're not quite getting him doing this yet. But this is the most important thing that is done in the film, which is he isolates them so that hopefully from his actions, he has condemned everyone there, but they don't understand that it's being done for the good of the earth, that he has condemned them. He is not,
Well,
you know,
I mean, actually, when you look at it, it's a very heroic act.
mm-hmm,
You know that he's sacrificing himself and the others so the this doesn't spread to the rest of the world and whatnot. But I think that when it first came out, um, that scene kind of flew over everybody's head.
exactly,
You know,
exactly.
people it flew over everybody's head. In fact, people just thought maybe because it's Antarctica and the isolation, he just flipped
Mm-hmm,
out.
exactly,
He just,
exactly.
yeah, he's just going crazy, you know. But then when you assess the whole movie, no, that's a heroic act that he's
Yeah,
doing. Actually, I think the the remake supposedly that came out, I think that's supposedly like a prequel.
Yeah,
yes, it was a prequel.
prequel.
Yeah, it's a prequel because I think that ends where the Norwegians in the helicopter trying to kill the dog. I think it
Mm-hmm,
ends like that, and the well, not the original, the second thing. That's where it picks
mm-hmm,
up at. But yeah, I think that flew over a lot of people's heads. Unfortunately, some people see when some people go to the movie, especially when it's like horror or action, people are focused more on the horror and action than on the actual plot.
mm-hmm.
Right. I think that's right. The subtleties, like we
Yeah.
said, the subtleties of the plot that help to make a film to me even more enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Eddie Murphy, I step to the left, look, I step to the right, look. Those are subtle. Those are subtle signs that an actor is doing, or maybe a director tells him to do, that adds to the substance of the plot and
Mm-hmm.
movie. So that's
Yeah,
exactly.
and I think it goes back to the discussion we had last week about Oscar categories and all of that stuff there. That's what makes that's why directors get hired, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because some directors can grasp on what's on the script and and bring it to film. That's why some directors are high. Some directors are high because they have a vision and it may stray from the script, but they have the sense that no, I'm going to do this little nuance,
Right. Right.
enhance the movie. So for all
Mm-hmm.
we know, that might have been that that whole thing with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. That could have been the director saying, you know what, I think he pulls Eddie to the side and says, Eddie, I need for you to do something for me. For this shot, I need for you to look and take a couple steps to the left. Look, take a couple steps to the right. Okay. And for all we know, Eddie could have been like saying to himself, well, what the fuck is he talking about
Yeah.
with that?
Or on the other hand, somebody like Eddie Murphy, who was quite astute and did a whole lot of, you know, ad-libbing his own lines,
Hmm.
that he may also have figured, well, if you
It
have
could
the
have been him.
guy,
Yeah.
yeah, the guy who says, he is smart. He's not, unintelligent guy. Why
Yeah.
would he get into the car with two people he doesn't even know,
He ain't,
and
he ain't
do
had no place to
this
go.
crazy thing? And it could be that he was thinking, I have to show that I don't have any other
Yeah.
plot.
It could have been Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It could have been Eddie. He could have pulled the director to the side
Mm-hmm.
and said, well, you know what? let's do this scene like this.
Yeah.
And the
Or
director is saying to him, so what the hell does he know
right.
about it? So, and mind you, these little nuances in films, that's what starts conflicts sometimes between actors and directors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you look at Roy Schneider, right? When everybody knows the line, we're gonna need a bigger boat. Everybody knows the line, but the look on Schneider's face, that's the nuance, right?
Yeah,
The nuance is like I've seen something I've never seen before. I thought I was gonna see X, and now I see X plus 1,000. And so this is, how many takes do you think it took for Schneider to get that look, or was it something that Schneider did in one take? You don't know. You don't really know. But it's if you miss it, if you
Yeah.
just focus on the line, we're gonna need a
Mm-hmm.
bigger boat. You miss it, right?
Yeah, and also, the issue is, they're doing this and they're taping and they're rolling back and they're looking and say something's missing, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
or maybe they thought at the very beginning, okay, we get ready to do this, and we need to show that this guy who is Mister, I've got it all figured out,
right,
that
right.
he is being exposed to something completely different than what he ever expected.
Exactly,
So it's a
exactly.
possibility that any of those things could have happened, but
Right,
so necessary for
yeah,
us to understand that we have moved with him.
right,
mhm.
He's our vehicle into this film, and we have now moved with him.
right.
If we
I
didn't have,
tell you, not to cut you off, but I tell you a movie where I think this is this one little part of the movie that kind of tells you the whole, conveys the whole thing is Reflections in the Golden Eye. And
Mm,
it's the part where Marlon Brando, he's on Elizabeth Taylor's prized horse, and the horse just runs away, and he can't control the horse to the point where the horse throws him off its back. Okay, and he tumbles to the ground, and then he's on his knees, and he just starts crying. Okay, and right there tells you that here you have a man that's basically having a nervous breakdown. He's he's in conflict about his sexual identity, and plus he's in a position of status as head of an army base, and he just loses it. And the way that Marlon Brando is crying, I was like, wow, I don't think he used back then. You use a menthol stick to under
mhm,
your eyes to make you cry. No, I think he was really boo-hooing.
mhm.
You know, he was really boo-hooing. So yeah, it's the little things that in movies, little scenes, little nuances in scenes that can basically tell you in a nutshell what's going on.
yeah, and people have to pay attention. I think
Right.
some people pay attention to that, but like you said, James, but most people pay attention to all the bigger,
Yeah,
wider
the big
things, right?
scenes.
The big explosions, the big acting scenes, and
Mhm.
they
The
miss the subtle.
monologues and
Yeah,
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 yeah.
the iconic scenes and
Mhm.
stuff. There's one scene, like for instance in the first Tim Burton Batman. I don't know if y'all remember this scene, but it's like when the Jack Nicholson character, who's playing the Joker, of course, it falls into the vat of acid, and then he goes, is it acid or I don't know what that
It's
is.
chemicals, some kind of
Chemical,
chemicals.
some kind of
Yeah.
chemical. Yeah, I would say acid. He'd be totally dead if it's acid.
Okay, yeah.
So he falls into this vat, and it messes us up, and he goes to one of these mob doctors, and the mob doctor doesn't have all the tools apparently to do what he needs to do to Jack Nicholson.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you don't see the audience doesn't see Jack Nicholson's face, and the doctor is explaining
Yeah.
to him, I did the best I can, based on these tools that I have, and
That's what I
you
have
know,
to
I,
work with.
yeah, I had to work with, and so you don't see Jack Nicholson's face, but Jack Nicholson holds the mirror up to his face, and he starts that Joker laugh, and he gets the mirror and he smashes it, and I
Yeah.
guess and that is a very impactful scene to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the doctor kind of backs away,
Mm-hmm.
like what the hell did I do?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Type of thing. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that I don't think that a lot of actors could have done that scene.
Yeah. Yeah, because we talked about that. It's like, who else could have done? Who else could have done even that role at that time? Though I have to admit that Nicholson, for quote unquote looks, was probably not a person that I would have chosen because I would think the Joker, who was supposed to be kind of a dapper guy, dressed well, good
He'll
looking,
be real handsome, right?
right? And I think that if you're handsome or thought you looked really good, that it would be much more of a mind break to see yourself kind of destroyed visually. And I think that's kind of going to make you kind of lose your mind and become a villain, a comic book villain. So, but the things, even the people I could think of right now, or off the top of my head, that you think, okay, the looks for it, I don't know if they had the acting chops for it. So, you work with what you got. But I think that was a very deep because I mean, this is the birth of this villain. That moment when he cannot take the fact of what has happened to him, and it's like this.
Which by the way, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean that to me was a very chilling scene.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, the makeup they used for Jack Nicholson as a Joker, I thought was a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Pun intended. It wasn't the best makeup for the Joker. It wasn't what I thought it was a little bit much.
Mm.
But that
I
scene,
didn't. I didn't. I thought that, in my mind, the way I thought of it was that he looked at himself and basically thought I look like a freaking clown, and just kind of it's like a takeoff on a bizarre, hideous, you know, clown. You know, that's what I thought. But I could be wrong. But that's what I
Well,
thought.
I think the casting for that movie shocked a lot of people. Because
Hmm.
some people, Michael Keaton is Batman and Jack Nicholson is the Joker. I think when it was first announced, people were like,
Oh,
"What?"
gotcha. Yeah, some people really were upset, especially those people who looked at something, for instance, like Superman, and having Christopher Reeves to play the role of Superman. I said, Christopher Reeve, he's this, 6 foot something, 215 pound guy who looks, fabulous in his tights. And what we get is Michael Keaton. But I mean, I'm going to say that, which the time tells the story. In retrospect, we look at it and realize Michael Keaton was probably one of the best Batmans they could ever have chosen.
Well, the other thing you have to remember was that in the billing, that Nicholson got top billing.
Yep, because he's Nicholson. Yeah. And by the way, hello, Cranston. Good to see you. How things going?
Oh, well, it was like I fought the computer and the computer won, but when I finally gave up and everything, it said, okay, we'll let you in something.
Hey, your computer is kind. See, look at that, yeah. Skynet can be kind.
Yeah.
All right. But we were talking again about these films, these moments in these films, these turning point moments that may not be the iconic moments that the industry or anyone else looks at, but that we realize that this is, an important juncture for plot or character development. And so, is there anything that jumps out at you, Cranston?
Yeah, there are two that come in. They both come from the same movie. And it's a 2001 A Space Odyssey.
Of course it is.
Which is, well. I could have gone with Strange Love, but I thought I'll go with that one because these two were the ones that were iconic, and of the several that were, because basically they said it was a silent movie because when they did have dialogue, it was really mundane dialogue, like these chicken sandwiches really taste like chicken now. So yeah, they've gotten good at that and stuff. We dug this thing up on the moon, really? Okay. And that's the kind of level of dialogue. But the two scenes that stick out is the beginning of the movie, in which there is no dialogue for the first 20 minutes, unless you count hooting and grunting and growling as dialogue. And Moonwatcher, after he's discovered that, if I hit somebody in the head with one of these bones, they stop moving. And so he's just smashing all of these skulls around him and everything in celebration. And he just joyously yells out like he just discovered this, and he throws the bone up in the air, and the camera doesn't really track the bone. It just holds in the frame as the bone tumbles out. It tumbles out of the frame, then goes back to the same shot of the bone still tumbling out of the frame, then goes back to the bone tumbling again. In mid-tumble, it jumps from the bone tumbling to the spacecraft that's roughly the same shape as silently gliding by across the screen. Mm-hmm. And it's a way of saying that the time between that spacecraft and the time between us learning that, bones could be repurposed as weapons has been like a blink of an eye, no time at all. Mm-hmm. So that was one that was really good. And of course, the classic one that goes to another segment of the movie that, if you timed it, it's really almost like half an hour with no dialogue. But it starts out with Dave and Hal discovering that on Earth they said, well, we don't know why your computer screwed up, but our computer says that your computer is having problems. Mm-hmm. And so we have no text in the area, so you guys are going to have to figure out what to do about it. So Dave says, would you mind help me look at pod 3? And he said, yeah, sure. So they get inside the pod and everything, and they turn off all the electronics in the machine. And then they're going, okay, Hal, can you hear me? Hal, can you hear me? And Hal doesn't respond. So they're talking about, well, what are we going to do in case, Hal is really screwing up? And of course, there's another mundane conversation and everything, and they're going back and forth. And the camera cuts to a picture of one of Hal's cameras on the side, which is, of course, that unblinking red light that's looking at them. Then it cuts to his point of view. And we see Hal shifting his gaze from one to the other, and he's reading their lips. And they have no idea that he's listening in on everything they say they're going to do to him.
Yeah, and that was when I saw that to me was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
They are so
And they even did a thing in an episode of Futurama with Sigourney Weaver doing the voice of the Planet Express computer, which had her personality. And Fry and Leela are talking about, well, what are they going to do if it still messes up? And she's going from mouth to mouth, listening to him. And then it comes back and she says, boy, I wish I knew how to read lips.
Very good.
That's funny.
But that was one. And then, of course, the next session is the next 20 minutes when Hal goes out and he waits until Dave and Hal are occupied, and you see the pod is out there just floating around, minding its own business, and all of a sudden it turns, and the arms open up, and it starts boosting itself toward Hal and toward can't think of his name and stuff right now. The other guy, Frank, and then when Dave sees what happens, he immediately jumps up and goes out to rescue him. Of course, we now know without his helmet, and while both of the people who are awake out of the ship, it cuts back to shots showing how empty the ship is, and it zooms in on the 3 astronauts who are still in suspended animation, and it focuses in on the screens that monitor their health. And all of a sudden you hear an alarm, and you see that Hal is in the process of waking them up and making sure that they don't wake all the way up.
Yeah, Hal.
That's a dangerous computer.
Yeah.
Well, I think these scenes like that are so integral to the movie, and if you miss them because you blinked or your hand was in popcorn or something else, you miss the real enjoyment and intent, like James said, of the director. You
Yeah, well, I think when you okay, when you have a movie, that premieres in a movie theater, you have different levels of theater goers. You have some that go for just there to see something blown up. Okay, you have some that go there for the plot. Some people go there because of the actor, and then you have people that actually go there to for the script, the plot, the art direction, everything. Okay, those are people that immerse themselves into a film,
and
and
I think I
yeah.
think I think that what you described. I
Hmm.
think that I'm like that because you know when we see these films and we see these little nuances and new and subtleties and all that.
Right,
Really, because we saw Superman yesterday. We saw Superman film,
right,
and to my knowledge, I'm watching the entire film. Immersing myself in the film because that's what I do. I hand myself over to the film. None of that was in. There was no subtlety or there's no really great art direction or anything that I saw that I said I never saw before. You know what I mean?
right.
So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. There may be several levels of moviegoers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now is it to add on to that, you have people that will go to a movie, watch a movie, especially if it's a superhero movie, and they remember how at the end of the movie when the credits were rolling, you walked out.
Yeah,
Okay, you probably was sitting there for the whole film, and now you gotta go use the bathroom, whatever.
right.
Now, now people stay for the
That's
end credits.
yeah, that's yeah,
And also you have a thing where I think some people, especially with superhero movies, they will go and not they will go to that movie to pay attention to the little Easter eggs.
yeah. Oh yeah, those are the real ones. That's a
Yeah,
level. That's a level
Yeah.
above me, to be honest.
yeah.
Because a bunch of Easter eggs in movies that I know I missed, and I know
Hmm.
people they see them. But the thing is, do you consider yourself one of those people even before end credits were a thing? Were you one of those people, or anybody one of those people that stayed until the end credits anyway? Just stay there and watch all
Oh
of the
yeah.
credits.
We
Always,
always did. We
always.
always did.
I did
Because
Yeah.
you
too.
want to honor the creators and say, everybody, even if it's nobody but their third cousin who knew they worked on this, there is somewhere in the credits that you want to honor the fact that their name was up on the screen, and you can also discover a lot of stuff that you didn't realize, like, well, this was filmed here and this was done there,
Yeah, exactly,
and
exactly.
that kind of thing. So yeah,
Yeah,
Now with with me, up to a certain point, no. Once the movie was over, I didn't care give a Mississippi goddamn who or where or what the movie was made. I didn't care. But now, it, if they if the end credits has something to do with writing, as opposed to before the start of the movie, they'll show screenplay, this based on this novel and whatnot. Now I do because I'm interested in the writing aspect of it. You know what I'm saying. But no, back in the day, I didn't, unless the movie had a really good like soundtrack.
Yeah. And you would say, what was that? Who did all
yeah.
that?
You know what I'm saying.
Get the soundtrack or who
Mhm.
sang that song.
Right, right.
Right,
But just
So I've seen something like the album available on Arista Records or something.
right, right.
right,
I've
right,
seen
right.
it twice. I never let. I mean, I see people when I was back in the day, see people get up when the movie ends and they do the like it's fade out and stuff. They get up and like they got a damn train to catch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, man. It's
Yeah,
it's more the movie.
there's more
There's more
here.
stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
there are a lot of people who go to movies and they treat it like it's a big television screen. So they do the two things that they do at home, other than putting their feet up on the chairs next to where you're sitting, is that they're constantly discussing the movie and about things that they miss, or doing something on their phone. And the ones who are asking, why did he do that? Is that guy that was in there before? Weren't you paying attention to this?
Yeah, that.
But I tell you though, I mean, I was saying that I know you're going to issues regarding into film, but back to the topic, it's just louder than words, the scenes, and I just wanted, before we lose too much time, one of the scenes that I always pointed to, and it's very small, it's just like actually like a gesture, was in the second Batman film, Returns.
Batman Begins.
Batman Returns.
Batman Begins.
Batman
Batman Returns. Sorry, Batman Returns.
Yeah, and that there's a scene with Catwoman and Batman when they're fighting on the top of this building, and they fall. And when they fall to this next level, she straddles him, and she's talking, and just basically before she's just kind of said, "Oh, basically I can't believe you hit me. I'm a woman," and then she knocks him off the building. They both off the building, and then she's again straddling him, and she goes on with her little spiel, and I'm a woman and I will not be taken for granted, kind of thing. But when she talks to him, she is again straddling him. They're face to face, and she licks his mouth. I mean, from chin to his nose, she licks his mouth, and then she continues speaking, then doing that little, as I was saying, blah 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 thing, and then while she's talking, he licks his mouth. So it's like you have this superhero. I'm gonna, get the bad guys. I, don't see you as anything but just another villain or whatever. But again, he's interested. And even though on the one hand he's saying one thing, he is exhibiting physically something else. So I always like that scene because it's just subtle. It's very subtle. Because she's talking and we're focusing on, her finishing up her little lines.
Yeah.
And then this thing.
I don't think that the director had anything to do with that at all. I think that the two actors were either dating before or after or during, or there was that, and I think that scene is so it's missed by a lot of people, but it's so almost sensual.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, when you look at it, even in the comic books, it was always that dynamic between the two. Although also in the comic book, Batman kind of had a thing for Wonder Woman. But when you look at the old Batman TV show with Adam West, you kind of got that subtle feeling that he was trying to fight it. Whenever him and Catwoman would get together, you kind of got the feeling that he was just trying to control himself. And she was like, she didn't care. She, what I'm saying? So it's also that kind of dynamic with Batman and Catwoman. But now when it comes to me, when it comes to little subtle nuances and things like that in his movie, Alfred Hitchcock made you pick up on little subtleties. Okay. There were films where, the protagonist in his movie would see like the antagonist or somebody that's related to what's going on, and the camera would kind of like linger on that person. Okay. Or like in The Birds, when they're in the diner, and the camera slowly moves towards the the hallway going to the restrooms, and everybody's there terrified, and it seems like everybody has that look, like they're kind of looking at Tippi Hedren as like, you know, she's an outsider. What does she kind of have to do with this? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alfred Hitchcock, he would make you
Yeah.
put up on the subtle nuances. Like I forget the name of the movie where the young man is on the bus, and I think the bus has a bomb, or he has a bomb on it, and the more you watch it, the more you want to just yell out, you know, hey kid, get the hell off the bus. Something's about to
Mhm.
happen.
Right.
You know, so Hitchcock made you pick up on subtleties, like the discussion we had a couple of weeks ago about Psycho.
Yeah.
Mhm.
To me, he kind of gave you the clue when Anthony Perkins comes out at Martin Balsam and he's dressed as his mother. But when you look at it, you're like, well, that person's kind of husky to be somebody's,
I,
mother.
I got to
Yeah,
tell you, when I saw it, you know, it looked like somebody that was his mother, because he draws you in so much, that you don't really, you see, but you don't see,
Mhm.
and the other scene for Psycho, like you said, that I really enjoyed that people don't pay a lot of attention to, what a subtle scene is the scene where um, uh, Anthony Perkins and Janet Leigh are having a conversation, and he's trying to obviously flirt with her, right? And he's talking to Janet Leigh about this and that, and then Janet Leigh says, "Well, if you're having so much problems with your mother, why don't you put her into a home or institution?" And then his personality just changes on a dime, and he says, "What is the line, Pinocchio? They
They
click."
cluck their thick tongues, that one, that line, that.
Switches to this,
Mhm.
angry person defending his mother, and then after he says that, he catches himself, and then he goes back to trying to the shy young man trying to flirt with this beautiful woman. So
Mhm.
that people don't catch that, but that subtlety is that we have a guy who had a lot of dichotomy in his personality. He
Yeah,
had a
Right.
there's
And then the thing is, like, when he makes that comment, about people doing this and that, is he himself or is he the mother?
right.
well, there's
Put
one
yourself in a
scene like that
Mhm.
that is real subtle, and like the first 10 times you see it, you don't pay attention to it. But there's this one scene where the shot up the stairs where he's going up the stairs as the innkeeper. And as Anthony Perkins is walking up those stairs in dressed in male clothing, ever so subtly, his hips are swaying as he goes up the stairs.
I did not notice that. I
Yeah,
did not know. Yeah. And let me ask you this: when he kills Martin Balsam and jumps on him, does he straddle Balsam, or is he sitting on the side?
I think he straddles him.
yeah, he straddles him.
That's you know, I'm thinking that a man wouldn't straddle another man. So that's another thing I'm thinking, like that's a woman.
Mm-hmm.
So it's Hitchcock's expertise in shooting these scenes. And I gotta look again because I have never, all these times, it's one of my favorite movies. I have never noticed him swaying his hips.
Yeah,
Never.
but just watch him as he walks up the stairs. It's very subtle, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. You said, "Oh, how long has that been there?" So,
Yeah, cool. Then we'll take a look. That's something definitely to take a
Yeah,
look.
well, that's what I'm saying. Alfred Hitchcock, he made you pick up on subtleties. The camera angle, the way he would focus on certain actors and certain scenes. You know what I'm saying? He was just a master class in filmmaking. I mean, going off topic, the last scene in The Birds, where was it Rod Taylor, I think his name is, and Tippi Hedren, they all get in the car and leave the house.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know it, but that scene with them leaving the house and the birds all over the place, those are separate. Those are separate. How can I say separate films that he kind of combined into that final shot. Okay, where he took apart from with just the birds, and he took apart with them in the car and whatnot. And I guess in he had to add what they call the matte painting in the background and whatnot. That's a combination of different parts of a film, you know. So he was a a master class in subtleties.
Well,
And another thing that he did even before Marvel started doing it was he had started giving himself cameos in all of his films.
Oh yeah.
He'd either be somebody walking down, like
that was the thing that made the audience try to pay attention early on, right?
I think that that's what I think that that's what a good portion of the people went to the movie for.
Yeah. Can you spot Hitchcock? Where's Waldo? You know, spotting Hitchcock. And and he did it so many different ways. I remember he in the what was the name of the movie? Lifeboat. And he wasn't in the lifeboat. He was on the newspaper for weight reduction, you know. And then in the movie with Cary Grant, North by Northwest, you know, you see him and then people bustling down, you know, the city streets, you know, getting on buses and stuff. And then he tries to get on the bus and the bus closes the door.
Closed on him, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like, can you spot him? Can you spot him? And that made you pay attention. And maybe he did it that way so that you need to pay attention, and you need to pay attention throughout the entire movie. You need to pay attention.
Maybe we should do a show called "Can You Spot Hitchcock?" and go through all the Hitchcock films.
And the other thing is, of course, it should be something about the number of times that he was copied, because if you look at that scene in North by Northwest where the crop duster is trying to kill Cary Grant, he's running in the field with no place to hide. They just lifted that straight out and using it From Russia with Love.
Yeah. And even his movie trailers were a bit of an event, because I could actually remember sitting up in the Ward Theater in the Bronx, and the trailer came off of Frenzy, and they showed the picture of the Thames River in London, and it's him floating face up in the river.
Yeah.
You know? So, you know what? I don't think we'll ever get somebody like him to produce and direct movies. You know,
I thought that to be honest, I thought that M. Night Shyamalan was going to be the heir apparent.
Right.
But I think after M. Night did Unbreakable, and he did that movie, those aliens come and they something about water. What's the name of that movie?
Signs.
Signs.
Mel Gibson, Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah. So his number one was casting Mel Gibson, and then it went downhill from there. And then he lost it. He lost the beat. He lost the, you know, he was the heir apparent. Hollywood had him the heir apparent to his
done the coronation, everything.
Yeah.
Because you looked when you saw his movie coming out, and you went to see one of his movies. You also look for that part of the movie that had something to do with water. You know, it was also something he had. I don't know whether it was a glass of water or water pouring, but that's what people look for. That's the kind of the thread that went through all his movies. But
I
he just,
didn't.
yeah, yeah, that was a little, yeah, that
I
was
don't remember anything water-wise in The Sixth Sense.
no. If well,
Sort of
see, this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. He had that subtlety to put that in through all his movies, to put water as like a metaphor. But
I
then
always
that,
thought that his films, the thing was things that were color-coded, that you
Well,
have
yeah,
to
me
see
too. I thought like
color-coded.
it was a color red. But what was the water element in the Sixth Sense?
the Sixth Sense, I
Drowning.
only
Oh, no, I
saw
mean,
the
Unbreakable was a drowning, but in The Sixth Sense,
right.
I don't remember anything water-related. In Sixth Sense.
Yeah, that was something. I mean, if you go back, you probably see something in there metaphorically
About
in the
water?
sixth. Yeah, about water, because I think he even admitted that this is what he does in his films,
Hmm.
and you could kind of tell that you're watching one of his films. But this was before he lost his mojo, so to speak.
He did. And the
Well,
thing,
I don't think he lost it as much as he got lucky a couple of times. And in the age of instant gratification, that at Hitchcock had taken like decades to build up a body of work that you
Right.
see what he did. This guy did 2 movies, and all of a sudden he's the new king.
I
And
guess you're right.
well,
even in the Hitchcockian sense that he always gave himself a cameo in all of his movies. That was
that,
usually an exposition that we explain something that's going on.
but that's not
Um,
accurate, Francis, because he actually had three movies or four movies before he did Signs, and when he chose Mel Gibson to be in Signs, it was a deviation from using what's his name,
Bruce
what's
Willis.
Bruce Willis, because Bruce Willis said that it was going to be a trilogy with him, that M. Night was going to do three movies with him, and I think I'm not, Bruce Willis is not a director or anything. I didn't really care for him as an actor or as a person, but I thought he brought a lot to the movies that M. Night directed him in. But there's another movie he did before The Sixth Sense, about a kid in a Catholic school. I forgot the name of the movie, and then of course he did. He wrote the script for Stuart Little, the film Stuart Little. So he had the talent. The talent was there. Something happened. I'm not sure what it was.
well, I think what it is you doing the movie backwards instead of letting whatever the plot twist come out of what happens in the story. He came up with the plot twist first and then wrote something to lead up to it. And
That
that
may,
makes it look a little bit mechanical and a little bit
that may be
predictable.
it.
And you say, well, wait a minute, why is this happening? How did this come in here like that? So
Because remember, before Hitchcock did Psycho, he was in the doldrums. People like you lost your mojo, and now you're stuck on TV, and you're never getting out of that ghetto.
Well,
But
I,
and
I
then
th-
Hitchcock said basically, let me show you what I can do. And so he pulled out all the stops in Psycho, and like this is a bad boy. That was his comeback. Psycho was his comeback.
well, it's not only that, but I can't remember the name of the movie too. But when somebody had said that he uses all of these tricks that show up in all of his movies, and I forget what the name of the movie was, but it might have been one of the ones with Cary Grant. But what he did in the movie, now if you really want to see a master class in what you do, is he just stuffed every convention that he did in every movie into this one movie. The cars that would be back projected to show him driving, the trains going through the tunnels, all this kinds of stuff. He just put everything in this
Yeah,
one movie to say it's not like I don't know what I'm doing. Yes, I
yeah,
do know what I'm doing here. So
yeah, yeah. He had to prove himself again because he was like almost like what M Night is now, which is like, yeah. But
well,
Hitchcock did it. He actually did it.
with Hitchcock, he had the when you look at it, he had to prove himself a couple of times
Hmm.
because a lot of people don't know or remember the movies that he did in like the 30s.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, and I could be wrong, but I think he even did like a couple of silent movies.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you have that phase, okay, pre World War II, and then you have the because in fact I think he did 39 Steps twice.
And I
Hmm.
think the man who knew too much, I think he did twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Did he
it
did
was
what was the name of the movie with the guy who was Jack the Ripper? What was it called? The Lodger. He did
uh-huh.
that. He did that movie, and he did a lot of that stuff. But when he started to do and this is ironic, but when he started to do the Jimmy Stewart movies, that's what people basically said. You lost your mojo,
He
man.
lost the plot, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this movie is shit. This movie is basically shit. You
Yeah, and
know?
it's sad because I up until recently I love Vertigo and Rear Window.
Mhm.
Okay. Um I'm probably one of the few people that enjoyed Rope.
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Look,
Um
can't stand that film.
I did not enjoy that movie.
well see I you know what I like about Rope? What I like about Rope is again his technique.
Mhm.
Okay, because he if I could be wrong, but he filmed Rope in just one take.
But that's for James. That's the problem. And like, if you got a film a director and they filling themselves and it's all technique. It's like
Hmm.
a basketball player who likes the way he dribbles. He's got fantastic dribbles and he had ball handling skills and
Right.
he dribbles a goddamn ball to the clock shot runs out. That's fantastic dribbling, but it
Yeah, but we
culminated
didn't score any
culminated into nothing.
points.
It culminated into nothing. And so
Yeah,
that's
but but
that's the
but
problem
you
with rope. That's the problem with rope.
yeah, but see, you gotta look at it like this. Not too many people could pull that off.
But I mean, but
Okay.
our position is that I don't
Well,
think that he did. I think that Rope to do that is using a device, and it was a device that did not serve the storytelling.
yeah, I think
And it may be something that
it's
he
all
wanted to
technique.
do, and I mean, he has every right as a director to do the thing that he wanted to do. But I just don't think that it was successful.
It's like Allen Iverson, dribbling back, behind his back, between his legs, over and under, do a cross dribble, blah blah blah, dumb bum bum blah, blah. That's nice, that technique, but who's that
Well,
for?
again, yeah,
Yeah.
but again, like I said, I think technique wise,
Mhm.
he's a master class.
Right.
Okay, because
And he could have done a class on it, and that would have been wonderful.
yeah.
But I think for the film that was produced, that particular technique was not, I think, appropriate to that film.
And people said he lost his touch, and he said, "Okay, I'm gonna show you, I lost my touch." He did Psycho, and when he came out with Psycho, he blew. Not only did he blow everybody's mind, but he changed the way that people watch movies.
Hmm.
People coming in the middle of movies and all that kind of stuff, and people talking about movies and telling what happened and blah blah blah. It's like you won't be let into this movie if you come in after it starts.
Hmm.
And so it changed the way we watch movies. He was a true master because the true masters are like Muhammad Ali, right? They get the crown, they lose the crown, they get the crown back.
Because I'm so
Everybody
good
says,
that I can do that.
yeah, yeah. So
I
somebody like
reinvent myself. I get to reinvent
right,
myself. If
yeah,
there's something
somebody
new
like
comes along, I can pick that up and go with
right,
it.
somebody like M. Night Shyamalan is like he was getting ready to get the crown. Somebody knocked it out of his hand, and he's been looking for that crown ever since. I don't think he's ever going to find it.
Yeah, well, with him, okay. I mean, to tell you the truth, none of his pictures ever really gave me a wow moment.
Really?
But I think in his defense, we have to look at the audience that he's made these films for. Because I hate to say it, but these days people have short attention spans. Okay, and people don't go. Put it this way: people don't go to the movies for the same reason that you guys go to the movies. Okay, these days people are more concerned, like I said, with the explosions, with the action, all of that there, whether the plot twist is at the beginning or end. People these days are mostly big, what they call big tent pole
Yeah, tentpole
people,
film,
which is just another way for saying blockbuster,
big summer
summer block.
blockbuster.
So
Yeah,
James,
Yeah.
what you're saying, James, is that film is no longer considered an art form. I've been talking to Penelope about that for a while. Is
Hmm.
film? I know we're way off topic, but is film based on what you said, which I believe to be true? Is it truly still a art form, or is it
Well,
just
man, yeah, but I think,
explosions and CGI?
but I think that when you make the current topic, when we talk about these things that a lot of the words that the art of creating these moments, these very nuanced moments that add to the plot and to character development. So that there is that art that's still out there. There's still people out there who know how to do these things. I gotta say,
But not
I think of one not too recently, but recently enough, is when we are watching um, Black Panther, right? So the scene at the beginning, after T'Challa's father, comes to California, and he gets they come in and they have the issue with Killmonger, Eric's father, and he is killed in that scene. The next thing you see the spaceships taking off, right? And you see this little boy on the basketball court, and he's looking up in the air and seeing the spaceship take off. Now, I know there are a lot of people who said, "Oh, yeah, well, I knew that was Killmonger. I
yeah,
don't know how because nobody
I did
introduced the
know.
fact that the man, but nobody introduced the fact that the man even had a child. So
No,
I
no,
don't
no.
understand how anybody could
I,
have
let me
identified that."
let me tell you why I know. I know because not because I'm like, oh, I knew before anybody. Like people say with the sixth sense. I knew all along he was, what you call. I'm not saying it like that. I knew because in that film, Ryan Coogler does an excellent job in making people, especially African Americans, connect to that film. And like the things he says before he's killed. These people are being
I
over.
mhm,
So it
I
connected.
understand that, but I'm
And
saying
I
at the
know
very
that film.
beginning,
Yeah,
when this child is there, we don't even know the child exists.
I
So
know.
how can we know that that
I don't know.
child is the child who ultimately will become Killmonger until afterwards that we
I don't
realize
know,
that
but
that
I
was
did.
the child.
But I
Well,
just
But we
did.
didn't even know he had a child. So how do we know?
I didn't know that's Killmonger because number
But
one,
we
the
didn't even
camera.
know Killmonger existed at that point.
But I'm looking at him. I'm looking at this kid. The camera's looking at this kid, and the camera's looking at this kid. Look at this spaceship, or this plane, or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, but I mean, I
So,
think it's like a normal kid looking, say, "Oh my God, look at
yeah,
that thing. There's a spaceship you looking plane. What the heck?
yeah.
Take
well,
it off."
I
well,
just got.
also that's because after the fact, everybody figured it out in the beginning. So yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
Well,
mean,
I didn't, and I think
people
that
say that.
it was
Yeah,
very great. I think I didn't know,
yeah,
but I said that when I saw it, and then we go back, and then we understand that this is that child. To me, it made it even worse
yeah.
because what the hell? You mean
It's hurt.
the
It's
uncle
hurtful.
knew that there was a child, or his whatever godfather, whatever, he knew there was a child there,
It's
and he
hurtful
didn't do
to me.
anything. That his father, his great, T'Chaka knew that there was
You're
a
right.
child there and
Right.
did nothing.
Because it's hurtful to me because the way I look at it as an analogy is like Africa and black people being over here in this hemisphere. It's like y'all left us with these strangers and these people who did these things to us, and y'all didn't even come out. You knew we were here, and you didn't come out and try to help or do anything.
Yeah, did
And
And
that
anything.
was kind of
that's
Eric's point that says,
Hmm.
you have all of this technology, you could straighten all of this out, and you don't do anything. So we're going to change that.
Yeah,
and
I
you
want
know
to
I'm
do what you should have done.
and you know I'm here. I don't know that
And you
you're
knew,
there, but you
but you
know
knew
that
I
I'm
was
here.
here.
Yeah,
Right.
and you left us.
Yeah. But that
Is
to me is one of those
Yeah.
seminal scenes that, it's quiet, it's nuanced that you understand. He knew the exact moment when he was abandoned,
Right.
the exact moment,
Right.
and they
Right.
act as if they, oh, I don't know, how can this thing happen? Oh, no. And in fact, the elders, when he comes back and he says, "Here I am, and I'm wanting to compete for the crown," they don't say, "Well, you're not from here. What the heck?" He
Right.
shows that
Right.
he has the mark, and they
And
say, "Well,
you're
you
right.
have the right."
And you,
And the thing
Penelope,
is, Chaka
that
was
is
a
very,
jerk.
that's very impactful. And I don't think people other than black people and maybe some tapped in white people understand the significance of that.
That you're saying, but then because the elders, you would think, because of what T'Chaka said, what T'Chaka did, that they would say, "Oh no, you cannot come here. That you are not one of us." But they're like, "Wait a minute, this child is one of us.
Right.
How come this thing?" I mean, and I can imagine that they
You're
were
right.
shocked.
That's art. That's closer to art than simply being a movie. That's
Yeah,
true.
I thought that was brilliant. I thought it was because the things I think one of the issues was when I watched the film and I'm seeing it and here he comes and he's feeling himself, doing all that swagger, walking up in there, and that they would say, "Hey, who are you?" "Well, I'm Eric, and I was living in the United States, whatever," and they would say, "Oh no, you must leave here." They're like, "No, he is one of us." So the mistake was not the mistake of the elders; it was the mistake of T'Chaka,
Right.
who was, and maybe in the back of his mind, we don't really discuss it, who was trying to preserve that position for his own child.
And you're right.
Mhm.
Exactly. And so that is an example. But I think for the most part, James is right. When people go to the movies, they want to see the flash, bang, boom. And even in Black Panther, people want to see the flash, bang, boom.
Well,
And
well,
I think the majority of people miss the subtlety of that story. Now,
well, see,
Most people got the subtleties. I really do. That's why they went and saw it 2 and 3 and 4 times.
Yeah.
well, it's like this. Okay, this has been going on since movies began, and nothing for nothing, the tent pole crowd, as we call it, have been there before the artistic crowd because movies started off as Nickelodeons.
Hmm.
Okay, where you went into a tent and the machine was there, you paid your penny or your nickel, and you looked at
Moving
something,
pictures,
yeah, moving pictures. Like I remember the one French film short where they stick a cow in a machine and the machine spits out sausages and cuts of meat and stuff like that. People went to be entertained.
Hmm.
Now, as time went on, then the artisticness
But isn't it
started.
the same? But James, is that the same for most art? You could say the same thing for hip hop or graffiti or
Yeah,
just let's
yeah,
just say a lot of stuff that started off as something that somebody just did.
yeah. Just
You
to
know it, and it
listen.
became
The caveman sitting in the cave. He's like bored, so he's like, you know what? I'm gonna get up and use this berry juice or whatever
hmm
and paint images on the wall. So the entertainment came first. But as time went on, and with movies, short time, then the artisticness
right.
started to come in. That's when you had Eric von Stroheim. I think the movie Greed
Hmm.
or whatever, which I think is like 3 and 4 hours long
Hmm.
and stuff like that. So it's
But
always been there.
but now it's not. I believe you can have isolated cases like Black Panther, but I think for the most part, you'll get movies like the Superman movie we saw last night, which is no way,
Right.
no way. I'm not saying it this is being a mean way, but no way, shape, or form is anything close to being artistic.
No, well, see, with this Superman film that's out now, it's not really meant to be artistic. It's just a tentpole film. This is for the what's the generations we're in now. This Superman is for
Generation Z crowd.
Generation Z,
Right.
millennials,
Mhm.
But there's
all
no
that. All
there's nothing in it that we're talking about subtleties like a movement of the hand or unsaid moment between two actors or you know
right.
that wasn't there. And I don't think it's the movies that we've been talking about, except for like
Mm,
Black Panther, the subtlety of movement, the subtlety of acting, the subtlety of we're gonna need a bigger boat, the look of Roy
mm.
Schneider's face. That I think that's gone. I don't think that's in
No,
the movie.
no. The only subtlety I saw with Superman is that people get kind of tired of him being a perfectionist. Okay, because I think there's one scene where Mr. Terrific, I think he stops the building from falling and the building's cracked, and Superman says, "Well, you could have shifted it a little bit to the right." And Mr. T is like, dude, what is it with you? So if you're looking for subtleties,
Like the subtlety we've been talking about. The
yeah, you're
subtlety.
not, you're not in a movie like this Superman that's out. It's not gonna be there.
But
It's
I
not
think
Well,
gonna.
that
so I mean, and I know a lot of people. I would digress a little bit. Talk a little bit about the Mr. Terrific character and how it is that a lot of people say well, it's like a Mr. Terrific film that they really did a lot of like the
what do
origin
you
kind
think
of, but
about
not
that?
really. I
What do you
think
think
that
about that, Alfie?
I think that it's a good supporting character. It's a very good supporting character. I think that they had a lot of scenes in that film that went on entirely too long. But I think it was a very interesting thing when Mr. Terrific fights and that Lois Lane is there watching this fight. And that Mr. Terrific's method of fighting is so different from Superman, you know? And she's just stunned. But the thing is that when he does this one fight, this one circumstance, you don't ever see him do it any other time. Only there. When there are really, in all honesty, no eyes on him. Only the people that get whooped, and that's it. And so, again, even though Mr. Terrific is, he's smarter, he is certainly, as far as fighting and stuff, uh, a little bit more practiced, astute than Superman is, he never does those things on the big stage. You know, it's like the same that was done to Cyborg in my.
Yeah,
But
and
that's
I
like
and I,
that's
and I
another
also think
story.
that when people said that it's a Mr. Terrific film, I think that's a bit overblown.
Yeah, I do. I think it's a little overblown. But I think what they're saying is what they would rather have had was a Mr. Terrific. And I agree with that. I think it would have been interesting to see where he comes from, what he does, how does he get there, get around. He could be from anywhere, from the way it is, the way he travels and that stuff. And also, I like just the way that they have, the way that Mr. Terrific thinks. He doesn't like when the guy says, I can help. He says, like, I need your help, I did
I,
like that.
I I have a feeling. I have a feeling that now that DC has been somewhat successful with this Superman, I have a feeling that you're gonna see a
But I'm
Well,
going to tell you, it's weird to me, like their Justice gang they have in there. I'm like, I'm sorry, but I guess having watched Justice League, films and know the whole Justice League um, background, I guess it was very weird to me to have the Justice League the way that it was, and maybe this is just the setup to having John Stewart become the next Green Lantern. I don't
because the
know.
Green Lantern that they had in the movie, I could have done. They could have missed me with that. They could have missed me with
Hmm.
that Hawk Girl.
Hmm. I
Well,
didn't. I thought Taco was fine, but I thought that Green Lantern was like, wow. What
if you're a
really
fan of the comic book, that's who he was supposed to be. The
was
Guy
supposed to be
Gardner.
Hal?
He wasn't supposed to be Hal. He was Guy Gardner, who somehow got picked who was a lawyer, and got picked as being a Green Lantern, and he was kind of
yeah.
butthole throughout the run of the comics that he was in, haircut and all. So he was pretty much true to the way.
Yeah, he was. He was a butthole in the comics, and he was a butthole in the movies.
Well, see, I don't go back that far with Green Lantern. Like I said, the first one I jump out with is Hal. But Hawk Girl, I didn't mind the Hawk Girl that much.
I did. I thought she was horrible. I mean, she didn't write her lines, so. But you can act your lines. I mean, you give lines and you can deliver them. However, but the thing is, to me, once again, getting off topic, the James Gunn, if his goal to like re-enhance or enhance more the DC universe, I think the Superman film is a fail. The only thing to me that was really kind of exciting and unexpected was Peacemaker being in the movie.
Oh my God.
I didn't expect that.
Absolutely. That show, if you don't watch it, Peacemaker is one of the best shows. I mean, wow, what a great show. Grown Up. It's an adult show. It's not for children. It is an adult show, but just hilarious. Again, it is an adult show. Adult
would you watch
comedy with superheroes.
Would you watch a Mr. Terrific, not a movie, but a Mr. Terrific show with episodes?
I might. You have to show me what it. I don't know anything about him except that little short window that we got to see him in this. I don't know too much more about what does he do during the day. What are his hobbies?
Well, see, that's the thing. I paraphrase Mark Hamill when he said, "Listen, even though I was in Star Wars from day one, this Star Wars that's out here now. It's not me. It's not my Star Wars, but just carry on." And that's the way I look at this whole Superman thing. This is, God bless him. Enjoy. My Superman is just from another era. I'm not saying it's better. I'm not saying it's worse.
What era is your Superman from? Which one?
Well,
Silver Age.
I mean, theatrical film wise.
Oh
no. Well, I guess you could say mine transcends from George Reeves to Christopher Reeves.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I would even include Dean Cain, but he pisses me off these days. So
he joined ICE.
Yeah.
Dean Tanaka Cain, really.
Yeah, exactly. On the Tanaka. But
I'm already here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm already here. So later for you people coming in, Close the door.
Yeah, close the door.
Yeah, put the chain lock on. But no, it's just listen, this Superman is for millennials, Generation Z, and they calling the babies coming up, Generation Alpha.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you how I feel about this, though. I haven't watched it. I feel like, and maybe this is just me from my, limited understanding of the James Gunn universe, DC universe. But when I watched this, I was very uncomfortable with the way that Superman was being described as an alien, and that his alien, quote, quote, alienness, metahuman, but an alien, metahuman, but not just the metahuman, the alien portion of it. Because remember, you have Green Lantern and Hawkgirl, they are also metahuman, but they don't go after him like him. He is an alien, and that is the issue, that he is an alien. And to say that his parents, they are these aliens who are telling him to, take over, this world. But the question to me is like, what difference is it if a crappy person from here takes over and a good person from somewhere else takes over? Well,
you
figure out, what is the difference? But also, the point being that the finger is pointed at a person who has only done good, and it's only their stereotype as to because of who he is, and that everybody immediately says, "Yeah, you're right. How terrible." But there's someone who is like the Lex Luthor. Well, sure, he's a terrible human being, but you know what? They wait till there's evidence, you know, and say, "Oh yeah, it's evidence that he's done this. Well, look at all this evidence that he did this." Okay, only now do we point the finger and say that he is a bad person. And then, I mean, I'm sorry if you have not seen it, you don't want to hear spoilers. This is the time to close your ears because I'm getting ready to do a spoiler, a major one. That 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I hope your ears are closed. At the end of the film, that he's always the thing that calms him down is when they play the videos of his parents, the ones that came with him when he was on the ship, and they're telling how much they love him, how much he means to them, that they sent him to this place in order to, so he could, be there and help them, use his abilities to help these people. And ultimately, in the middle of the film, we find out that the parents also said, in a portion of the tape that he never heard, yeah, because these people are kind of simple. You need to probably rule over them. So now everybody's just so, oh my God, he's not really being nice to us. He's just grooming us, so he can eventually take us over, blah, blah, blah. No evidence of that. They don't even stop to ask, what the heck is this? And of course, he's like, I never heard that part because that part of the tape was destroyed and you couldn't really hear it, just a whole bunch of buzzes and clicks. But be that as it may, at the end, that when the little monsters, whatever he's got there, his robots say, "Oh, we're doing some work on you. Let's turn on this tape of your parents that always calms you down." Instead, now they're showing the videos of him and Martha, and John, and him when he was a little boy, and growing up, and where is he, in Kansas?
Kansas. Yeah.
So this show now, when they show a picture of his parents, because I was calmed you down. So in my mind, this is just the penalty of it, that what they're saying is, in order to become truly an American or whatever, you must strip off all of the attachment that you have to the people who raised you, who gave you everything it is that you have in order even to be this, who told you to come here and not say, "Hey, come to this place and lay low. Don't let anybody know anything about you because they can be kind of crazy." No, go out there and do your best. What they did. But they said also, he finds out, they also said, you need to take over this place. They're kind of simple. These are not wrong things.
Okay, well, you know what? The minute MAGA people started calling the movie woke and started talking about that they were gonna boycott the movie, that's when I said, okay, I could get with this movie.
But I think that the thing is, like,
nope. The minute MAGA said,
don't be reactionary. That's the point. We cannot be reactionary. That they say right, we say left. They say up, we say down. No, don't be reactionary. That's a trick.
No, I will, because I will, because in these days of time, with what's going on in this country and 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, if they go right, I will go left. But no more. No, I'm sorry.
What's woke about the movie?
I don't see, because somebody did an interview with somebody, because somebody did an interview with James Gunn, and he said that this is a movie about an immigrant because Superman is an immigrant, right? And as soon as he said that, they started clutching their pearls, spitting out their coffee.
Oh my
they
God.
started.
Understood.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I get that, but I got to say this. I mean, and that may be the case, what you believe, but my problem is this: that they put out this movie, and it's exactly that. It's a movie about an immigrant, and what they're saying at the end is that now you are acceptable because you have assimilated, you've stripped off all of the thing that has made you what you are, and they rejected the parents that did everything, even gave
But
their lives.
is that part of the American experience? Not necessarily throwing away all of your culture or anything, but we become. It used to be we become all inclusive and one, right? We become
I never
American.
thought of it that way, and I think the whole point is being American is not like they said the melting pot,
Right,
but
exactly.
the goulash, but the jambalaya. That each
Yeah,
thing has its own flavor, and even though
yeah,
we're all put in here, the way we touch on each other makes us this whole. But the whole is just an accumulation of many parts that maintain their
yeah,
integrity.
exactly. I
So
think
the,
that's exactly right. And
Well,
I think
initially, remember Superman's catchphrase was "Truth, Justice, and the American Way,"
and what
and
is
then
the American
somewhere,
way?
mhm.
And what is the American way? The American
well,
way
hey,
when I was growing up,
what's
when
good
I
for
was
General
growing up,
Motors is good for the United
well,
States.
see, I never, I didn't grow up thinking that. I thought the American way was what Dr. King was talking about.
Mhm.
Exactly.
That's what I thought the
Exactly.
American
Yeah.
way was
That's what I
Yeah.
thought too. But we became very
Okay.
cynical about what the American way is after that. And I guess
Yeah.
But
maybe
now
for
all of a sudden,
those of us,
the American way is treating people the worst that we could find. I mean,
yeah,
there are people in the movie
everything that
that
people,
identify to me look like Palestinians, and other people look like Israeli people, and they look like Superman is defending the Palestinians. It looked like to me.
hmm
That's what it
Well,
looked like to me.
well, what had happened was that about sometime in the late '90s, the early 2000s, the DC had changed the motto to "Truth, Justice, and a Better Way."
hmm
And the pre-MAGA people went crazy about that. So then they just dropped his catchphrase altogether.
I think
But
that's stupid. I think
but
it should be
they
but I
have,
there.
think what's that, Gods and Monsters,
yeah,
where they have the Superman who didn't land here, you
Yeah,
know,
but
he fled
I
across the border. Mhm.
came up believing the mythology that that it was an American way, and
Absolutely.
that it was Dr. King and people coming together with the commonality of doing good not only in this country but around the world. I thought that
But
was the
then
American
people
way.
thought
I can't,
that once people went, a lot of times people think it's too left. I don't think it's too left, but it's certainly people are not very well moored. That simply because we say that there is flexibility in one thing does not mean there's flexibility in all. You know, we don't say that, hey, simply because there's a sexual revolution, that means that you get to have sex with children. Those are
no,
not, those things are mutually exclusive. We do not do those things. So,
no, no.
but
That's
I'm just saying that this is how people think. That simply
yeah.
because you think that there's flexibility or freedom in one thing, that means that it's no holds barred. You can do whatever the hell you want. And that's what they think about people who are left leaning, which is exactly wrong. I think that people who are left leaning actually are more like, this is the line that you do not cross. And then you have others who know that this is the line you're, mostly those who are right leaning, this is the line that you do not cross, unless, of course, I want to cross it.
But that's a
They don't.
problem.
So for everyone.
I think people who are
well,
progressive have seeded the American. We've seeded it. Like, oh my God, who wants to say the American way? But that's the way we grew up. You know,
And
we
if
grew up
we don't
with
do it, and what
Kennedy.
they've done is they have, what is it? They've taken control of what patriotism
They're
looks
taking
like,
control of it.
what American
well,
looks like. You know,
DC has had a history of doing what they call their Elseworld stories, which it didn't really happen, but it's the same characters you all know and love.
hmm
And they did one, and they said, and we can print this out for a year and a half, and they'll buy the individual issues and then the bound volume too. And so they did one that was called Superman Red Sun.
Yeah.
And the premise was that the spaceship did not land in Kansas, it landed somewhere in Russia, on a wheat farm in Russia. And
Yeah, I
so
saw that.
Superman grew up as a Soviet citizen.
Yeah,
And Lex Luthor became like the good guy who was trying to keep this super weapon that the Russians had from getting out of control. And
Well, see, that's the whole thing. Superman is constantly the narrative is constantly changing. It's
mhm.
constantly evolving. Okay, what Superman was to us watching WPIX channel 11 in the afternoon is way different for what it is now. Okay, it's just like you had people complaining about oh, certain people out here was complaining about the way Mr. Terrific talked, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, or whatever, I know of two tenants where I work at that sound like Mr. Terrific.
I
Hmm.
know a lot of people that sound like that. I
Yeah,
mean, I can't even count the number of people that sound like that. You
yeah.
know, so there's no big deal. And let me tell you about WPIX 11. If WPIX 11, the Superman that we grew up with the reruns of the old ass movie, if
Hmm.
that's no longer an issue, I have a problem with that. And let me tell you why I have a problem with that. Because I remember one of the first Superman shows I saw was when the Mole Men came out of the ground and Superman defended them and took people guns away and said these people they may look different than you, but they haven't done anything to you. They
Right,
haven't
right.
caused you any harm. And I said, damn, that's the American way.
Right.
And
Hmm.
so if that's a problem, if that we moved on so much, we evolved so much that we can't say that. It's just because people look different than us or act different than us or wear different clothes or whatever, they're not harming us in any way, shape, or form. And
But
so
see
Well,
we should
that's what I'm talking about. You know, it's gotten to the point where the director says something that we all know that Superman is an immigrant.
Yeah.
He's an immigrant. As soon as he said that, what happens? All of the MAGA people again, they started flipping out.
And
they
I don't
stupid.
understand why.
They
Because
need to go
most of
watch
them,
that.
their grandparents or
That's
great
right.
grandparents or
Trump
even
is
their
the
parents
Trump is the
were
anchor baby.
immigrants.
Trump is an anchor baby.
Yeah.
He's an
His
anchor baby. If the definition of an anchor baby is an immigrant coming over to this country and then having a child and then saying that child is a citizen, then he's a freaking anchor baby, and but nobody says it.
right.
You know what it is. You know what it is. I wish it was the day where something new came out, and I went to the movie and saw it, and that was that. That
Yeah,
was it. That was
yeah,
it. And whether I liked it or didn't like it,
yeah.
that was it.
Go back and tell people to watch the Superman with the Mole Men and tell me all the things that Superman says about those Mole Men, man, those people in that town want to they use the word. They want to lynch them, they
Yeah,
want to shoot them,
yeah, yeah,
and all the things that Superman does to including taking away their guns. Call that woke. Call it woke.
and you know the thing about that episode when I first saw it as a child. At first, the moment coming up out that ground scared the shit out of me. I ain't gonna lie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they
But
did.
then, but then after Superman was like, "Listen, these are just, you know, why y'all, not paraphrasing it, but he's like, why y'all going in on these creatures? You know, they just want to live like you. It's just that they got big bulbous heads and live underground. You
well,
know,
the idea is that Superman is the epitome. Superman, they actually want Superman to be Homelander.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they want them to be. But like I
And
said again, go
and the
back to that
idea
19.
is that it holds up American exceptionalism. You know, that Superman has all of these abilities and powers and everything, and he is white. So
Yeah,
therefore, he is the epitome of what we could have been if we had come from Krypton. We'd be like Superman, except that we would be zapping Black Lives Matter marches or something like that, and that's
but
why they're upset with it.
I like I said, go back to that Mole Man episode. It's a two-parter, right? Because they couldn't finish it in one episode. It's a two-parter episode. I think it may have been connected to a film or something. But Superman and the Mole Man. The words that
it,
Superman said, the words that Superman say are or akin to the words that Dr. King says, that Kennedy says, and it may have been because it was written by liberal people back then in the 50s or something, or writers that believed in that sort of thing. and if they have a problem with that, then we know that we're in an upside down war.
Well, there's. I mean, there's okay. DC has other universes, right? There's a
Mhm.
DC universe where Superman is black.
Yeah,
Okay, where Superman is black. You had people that was upset about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
He, he was black and he was the president.
yeah, and I'm like, I'm just gotten to the point where I'm just
It's
done.
crazy. But I'm watching like you said. I'm watching Channel 11 WPPIX, and this Superman is saying these people are different than you. These people, you shouldn't lynch these people or shoot these people, and you shoot one more bullet, one more gun. I'm gonna take your gun from you, and that he goes to the crowd, take that fucking gun from them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they can't because he told them not to do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were shooting at these people for no reason. And
Yeah.
they would talk about let's lynch them. Let's do all these things you hear about Southerners wanting to do to black people. The analogy to me is clear.
Yeah.
It's clear as
Mm-hmm.
day to me. And so
They
that's
had done nothing except to exist.
yeah,
thing
this
is
is
that
1952 or something like that. And here we are, 2025, and
still.
that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
It is, and yeah, that was actually supposed to be a theatrical film.
I mean, George Reeves was great. That's how
Yeah.
Superman became one of my heroes from watching those two episodes.
Because the issue is to most of us, we think of truth, justice, and the American way. And the American way for me, of course, for most of us, equal application of the law
Absolutely.
to everyone. You don't say that the
don't
law
own
applies
you
to
don't
one
own,
group
you
and
don't
does
own
not apply to
opportunity.
the others.
Yeah, you don't own opportunity. Opportunity belongs to everyone.
Right. And again, equal application of the law.
Yeah.
It's not a joyride when an Anglo person does it and Grand Theft Auto when a non-Anglo person does it.
Right.
It's like the same absolute facts and the same absolute law should obtain. And that's what
Exactly.
we always believe.
And
Equal
just and
application of the law.
just because you don't like the way somebody look, like these old men that come out of the ground, you don't like the way they look, you don't like where they come from, you don't like
But they didn't hurt you, they didn't break the
they
law,
did not, they
then you
did
just
not.
have to not like them. And you know
Yes.
what? And you have absolute every right to not like them.
Yeah,
Because
that's all right.
your prejudices belong to you. You
They
just
belong
don't get
to
to
you.
discriminate. That's all.
right. You don't get to put your
You
hands
can
on
be
them or lynch
that's
or
your
lynch them.
business, but you don't get to do things that divest people of
Oh,
their
that
life,
mole man,
liberty,
that
and
mole
their
man is
pursuit of
playing.
property or happiness
That
or
little that mole man is playing rolling a ball with my daughter. I'm gonna
yeah,
lynch that motherfucker. I'm gonna lynch his ass.
yeah.
Come on.
So that's silly. So yeah, I mean, I think that's the whole point, that we had a belief system that again, um,
It was the American way.
the American way. If
It
somebody
was
did something that was wrong or
or
illegal or
bullying.
whatever, then
Or,
sure.
it was comeback Shane.
Mm-hmm,
It was high noon.
mm-hmm.
It was all these things, right? That was the American way. And we deviated from the American way. One of the ways we deviated from the American way is the fact that DC took that out of the Superman model, and then these idiots bitched and moaned about putting it back, and they didn't know what it meant. And we as progressives, the people that we I guess what did we what you call it with, we associate ourselves with,
Mm-hmm.
thought that it was a bad thing to say the American way.
And it's not a bad thing, because the American way is a good thing, And it may, for other people, they may not like it, and that's all right. I mean, you don't have to like a lot of things, and that's cool. But for us, the American way, which is a certain way that we have decided to comport ourselves. I mean, there's some bad Americans, we know that,
Yeah.
but we should look at the things they say and say that's very un-American, and we should call them un-American. The things
Exactly.
that Donald Trump does are un-American.
The thing that Joe
And we should say
McCarthy
that.
did was very un-American.
Un-American.
The thing that George Bush did in Iraq with the torture, the un-American.
Those are un-American
These are
things.
American things. And now there's nothing that we can't say. We can say that's un-American because
The thing is, no, but we can say these are un-American, and the things that these people do identifies them as un-American, and we shouldn't accept what it is that they do. We should not put them in positions of power because they do things that are not in line with what it is that our ethos is as Americans.
Because I feel that if I come out and say that it's un-American and this is the American way, I think I'll be attacked by people on the left.
You know what? And then they just have to attack until they get their heads right. Because the thing is, a lot of what they've done is abdicate certain words so that they can maintain this dichotomy of the us and them. Sometimes there is no us and them. Sometimes certain things are just right and certain things are wrong. And everybody needs to be on the side of right, and no one needs to be on the side of wrong. There doesn't need to be a seesaw and a balanced scale when things are wrong. You don't go over there at all. And that's the problem. That we have gotten to the point where we think everything they say one thing and then we turn around and have to say the opposite. No, you don't say the opposite. We say, well, half of that makes sense, the other half doesn't make sense. We're not going with the stuff that doesn't make sense. Stuff that makes sense, okay, we get it. We all agree on that. But other stuff, not so much. But I'm looking at our time and we're getting down to the wire. So let's get back to the topic. Anybody else have any other scenes?
One other
from
scene
any films that louder than words?
One other scene I want to say real quick. People who've seen The Mask with Jim Carrey, there's a scene that's a subtle scene, and it's people may not remember it, but when he's in the club, The Mask, when Jim Carrey's in The Mask, he's been shot at, and then he pretends to get shot, and he's awarded the Oscar, and he does the Sally Fields speech like, "You like me, you really like me." And they give him the Oscar, and then he goes off, and he's going in the wrong direction, and then they point him in the opposite direction. I thought that was so funny, and to me, it showed the real essence of the character. It's like I don't really care about any of the stuff that you guys are doing, robbing banks or laundering money. I want to be a cartoon character. I want to have fun in everything I do, and so I thought that was a subtle scene. I'm not sure.
And nothing embarrasses me.
Yeah.
I just keep going, no matter what. I just keep going, and it's like this character, Stanley Ipkiss. This is his id unleashed. This is how, if I could be away, this is how I would be. Just id unleashed.
Free id.
Okay.
He's a carefree kind of id. I mean, I know the comic book was a lot darker, but the film, the way it was done, made a lot more. I mean, he did some really kind of questionable things, but certainly it's kind of like, because I don't care. I'm just doing it.
I love that scene because it shows so it's unattached to all the troubles that are going on and the kind of criminality, the kind of criminal things that are going on. It's like none of that really matters. It's like I want to be a kid. I'm a grown man, but I want to be a kid again.
Right.
Well, another scene that I thought was really good was in the next to the last scene in the Exorcist, where the father, the priest is talking with Reagan's mother about what happened, and he said, well, she doesn't remember anything, and so he just nods his head, and so she says, well, say goodbye to the father, and she says goodbye to him, and she just looks at him, and then it zoom in on his collar. And that's what she's looking at, and then she just comes up and kisses him on the cheek. And after she does it, you can see by the expression on her face, she doesn't know why she did it, but she goes on from that. So that was a good scene.
Why do you think she did it?
Because she remembers. They said she didn't remember anything, but she did remember Father Karras. She did remember who was the other priest. She remembered them in the fight to save her. That she remembers it. She doesn't know how much, but she understands that these people did that.
The problem I have with that movie is, excuse my language on it, that bitch did so much harm to people, and she the only one that comes out alive. Yeah. She turned some dude's head backward and threw him out the window, and then she called that old priest to die of a heart attack, and then she killed Father Damien. She killed his ass, and she turned her own goddamn head backward. And then she gets a skip at the end of the movie. She skips along and suffers no consequences.
Well, again, but this ain't because she was possessed and it wasn't her that did it. It's the devil made me do it
Yeah,
thing.
literally, the devil made me do
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
They could end the
yeah.
movie by killing her early on.
Okay, all right.
Just saying.
Okay. Well, look, guys, it's getting close to the end. I don't want to go over because I won't be able to do the splitting thing that I have to do with this. But James, anything that you wanted to close with before we go on?
Like I said, the minute MAGA tried to put the death grip on this movie, I love the movie.
Super
All right,
good.
man. All right, we get you. All right, you all. Well, thank you so much for joining this afternoon, and again, have a wonderful remainder of your weekend. Be back again this time, same place, for more discussions for the Otherhood. So take care of yourselves. We'll see you then. Bye bye.